So I want to tell you about the Loyola Institute for Ministry. Our programs are part of Loyola University, New Orleans, a Jesuit and Catholic university that's over 100 years old. We have been in relationship and in partnership with the Diocese of Orlando for over 40 years and have hundreds of graduates, have had hundreds of people go through our program there in Orlando for over 40 years. Our program is geared to busy adults. Most of our students, few of our students are students who have just graduated from college and are starting this program. A few of them are like that, but not many. Most of our students are people like you. My sense is that most of you all are not 22 years old, and neither am I. But if you are, that's okay. But most of our students are not like that. Most of our students are people coming back to school after years of experience and work and parenting in the world. And so our program is geared to busy adults. One of our commitments, and you all there in Orlando do a beautiful job of this, is forming a learning community. And so our program is committed to that learning community. And that happens through prayer, through conversation, through study together over a period of a few years. And so community is very important to us. Our program is informed by the best in the Catholic biblical and the Catholic biblical and theological tradition. And our program is supported by excellent library and student services. And so, so we are here for you. And we know that most of our students are busy adults, and so we're aware of that, and we provide services to support you. And so those services include, especially for our graduate students, but for all of our students, an advisor, your faculty, the director, myself. For students doing research in the library, we have a library consultant who is prepared to assist our students at the Loyola Institute for Ministry with their research. And the library is a fantastic resource. In Spanish and in English. We have books that we can send you through the mail, but probably more importantly is we have books and articles, hundreds of thousands of books and articles available full text online on the most pressing issues in theology and spirituality today. So we have a library consultant who can assist you with these resources. We also have student services and including career services and writing services. So those are some of our support services for our students. Again, geared for busy adults, commitment to a learning community informed by the best in Catholic theology and spirituality. Our program is informed by what our method of theology that in some ways people think is a new method, but I would say it goes back to Jesus himself. And that is what we call practical theology. And so what that involves is it involves taking your experience seriously. And so our students are busy adults who have a lifetime of experience that they bring to the table, to the learning group, to learn from others, but also to share. And so our practical theology takes your experience seriously. So practical theology is not abstract. It's not supposed to stay lodged here in your head, but it asks you to put your life in conversation with your studies so that you're always asking, so what? What does what I'm studying mean for me, my faith, the church, the world? And our program is informed, and practical theology is informed by Ignatian spirituality. And so our students pray the graces of the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius Loyola, because spiritual formation is a key part of formation and education for ministry. So this is practical theology. Again, it takes your experience seriously. It's not abstract, but it asks you to put your life in conversation with your studies. And our students pray the graces of the spiritual exercises. A little more about practical theology. Our practical theology uses a praxis approach that engages in a dynamic rhythm of action and theological reflection. So again, that goes back to my point that practical theology is not meant to be done in the abstract. What you are studying should affect your life and your ministry, and in turn, your life and ministry should impact your study and help you raise questions. So I asked each of you, what is your ministry? And we would want you to bring that ministry to your studies and say, what does it mean for me to be a sacristan? And what does the New Testament mean? And how can that enrich my work in RCIA? And so there needs to be that rhythm between your ministry and your study so that your ministry is enhanced and your study is enhanced. So one way we look at practical theology is to say it's contextual. And so we want our students to be deeply rooted in the Christian tradition, the Catholic, biblical, theological, and spiritual tradition, deeply rooted in that. But we also want our students to be attentive to culture and culturally literate, because what one person needs or what one region needs in terms of ministry differs. And we know that because we have students and graduates all around the world, around the United States. We've had students who are inmates at the Louisiana State Penitentiary at Angola, so in jail. We've had students in Belize and Scotland and England and East and West Africa. And so what ministry looks like in those different places differs in part because their cultures are different. And I'll say something about, I'll connect the first 2 points, Christian tradition and culture, like this. In a sense, God models practical theology. And I say that kind of jokingly, but in a way seriously, because who is Jesus? Jesus is God's word, not spoken in the abstract, not spoken in general, but spoken in Jesus Christ, who became human at a particular time in a particular place. So in Jesus, God was attentive to culture. God was attentive to first century ancient Near Eastern culture. And so, in a sense, and this is a little bit of a stretch, but in a sense, God practiced practical theology in the sense of being attentive and respectful of that culture. And Jesus was able to minister effectively in that culture because he knew it and was immersed in it. We need to follow God's example. And in the same way, be attentive to the people and the culture that we're ministering in. And I should say cultures, because people come from all different sorts of backgrounds. Okay, so practical theology is deeply rooted in the Catholic biblical, theological, and spiritual tradition. Our students are culturally literate. Also, ministry takes place within the context of institutions. And institutions have particular ways of operating. And those institutions and those ways of operating can advance and promote our ministries, but sometimes they can also be an obstacle to or a hindrance to our ministries. And we need to know how institutions work and be able to work within and take advantage of the strengths of institutions, but also be aware of the ways that they can be a hindrance to our ministry so we can work and be more effective. So we also want our students to be attentive to themselves in ministry. Who am I? Am I an introvert? Am I an extrovert? And how does that help my ministry? But also, how does it stand in the way of my being an effective minister? And how does that, and who are the people that I'm ministering to and with? How does who I am and who they are affect that? Finally, there's a growing awareness in the church and in the world about the centrality of creation. And that's certainly the case for Catholicism. My own studies are in the theology of the medieval theologian St. Thomas Aquinas. Uh, and I love how your colleague there, Anthony, is a Franciscan, and I love how St. Thomas, Pope Francis put together St. Thomas Aquinas and or put together the Jesuits and the Franciscans and Pope Francis. So, but for St. Francis, for St. Thomas Aquinas, creation is central. We encounter God through the fruit of the vine and the work of human hands, the fruit of the earth and the work of human hands, the Eucharistic elements which come to us through creation. We wouldn't have the Christian tradition, the cultural tradition, the institutional tradition, the personal experience tradition without creation. All of those depend on creation. So, uh, anyway, so that is central to who we are in the Loyola Institute for Ministry, these contexts. So we want our students to be attentive to and aware of those different contexts. So another aspect of practical theology, and I misspoke there. Your colleague, I said Anthony, I meant Louis Cantor, the Franciscan, whom I've talked to about putting together how Pope Francis put together Ignatian and Franciscan in his very name. I love that. So the Franciscans and the Jesuits and the Dominicans all. It's interesting. One of the four apostolic preferences that the Jesuits have articulated is care for creation. So anyway, the importance of that. So practical theology, a little bit more about practical theology. Practical theology also strengthens you. So it's not just a head thing, it's not just an action thing, but it also strengthens you to the four calls of baptism identified by the U.S. bishops. So baptism is very important to us. In baptism, we're all called to announce the good news with our lives and with our words. And there are four calls of baptism that the U.S. Catholic bishops have identified. The call to holiness in everyday life. So we're not called to holiness just when we enter the church, but in our everyday life. And some of us, some lay people are called to ministry in the church, and it sounds like all of you all are in a sense. But many lay people are also called to ministry in the world and see their work in the world as a ministry. And so practical theology strengthens you for the four calls of baptism identified by the U.S. bishops as holiness in everyday life. Baptism also calls us to community, to be in solidarity with and for other people. So it strengthens us for community. Practical theology strengthens us for mission. That word comes from a Latin word which means to send forth, to announce the good news of God's love for all people and all creation. So it strengthens us for mission and for ministry. Finally, and this is kind of a difficult call as I've thought about it, it strengthens us for Christian maturity. And I say it's difficult because Chris, Christian maturity, maybe I'll speak for myself. Every class I teach, I raises questions for me. Every class I teach deepens my spirituality. And every class I teach helps me grow in knowledge, helps me live my faith in church and in the world more effectively. But it does something else. It increases my sense of God's mystery, and that God is beyond my knowledge. I grow in understanding, but the more I grow, the more awestruck I am about God's mystery. And so, Christian maturity it grows in understanding, but also grows in that sense of mystery. Christian maturity involves that journey towards that mystery. And so our faith, again, speaking for myself, my faith is not the same now as it was when I was a youth, when I was a young adult. And we're called to that. And that Christian maturity involves raising questions and asking, being in wonderment at God's awesomeness and mystery. And so baptism calls us to that, and practical theology uh, and leads us to that and strengthens that. Okay, audience, who is our program for? Our program is for a range of people, DREs and PLCs, for teachers, for catechists, for people involved in RCI, priests and religious lay ministers, all of you all, people involved in youth ministry, religious education, RCIA, Eucharistic ministry, care for the sick, sacristans, catechists, all of you all. It's for people interested in exploring their faith at a deeper level. And so if you know people who are interested, who may not have a particular ministry yet, but who are interested in exploring their faith at a deeper level, this is for them. It's for people who want to integrate faith in work and faith in daily life. So what does it mean for me to be involved in, to be a lawyer or people in marketing or sales? How can those things be opportunities for ministry? And so our program can help you with that. So a few more things, details about our program. We meet at a time and place, or you meet at a time and place agreeable to your group, and Tomas and Louis will help you with that. It will be led by a trained and certified facilitator, again, Louis and Tomas, with faculty, we at Loyola periodically joining you by Zoom from New Orleans. It involves 6 LIMEX courses consisting of 10 3-hour weekly sessions each. And that results in an 18 credit certificate in theology and ministry. In addition, if you take 6 additional courses, that would result in a master's degree. So let me say something about the various credentials you could get. You could get the graduate or CEU certificate in theology and ministry. And I'll say something about graduate and CEU in a second. A Master of Religious Education, or a CEU certificate of religious education, a Master of Pastoral Studies, or a CEU certificate in pastoral studies. We also offer a dual Master of Pastoral Studies, MBA. The MBA portion is, business administration portion is fully online. We also offer a dual MPS, Master of Criminology and Justice. That second part, again, is fully online. And we can accept graduate credit and transfer. So let me say something about the master's degree curriculum. As I mentioned, we offer a variety of credentials. And so I could just talk in general about our curriculum. And we can work with you individually and with your group on shaping a curriculum that will meet your needs. But here's kind of the general master's degree curriculum. It starts, each master's degree, each of our students takes a set of core theology courses. Introduction to Practical Theology, our Bible courses, Grace, Christ, and Spirit, Church, Sacraments, and Liturgy, Spirituality, Morality, and Ethics. So those are our core theology courses. In addition, to make up the 12 courses that go into our program, there are 3 focus area courses, 2 electives, and then our capstone course is kind of a synthesis course that allows you to draw everything together in the service of your ministry. Let me say something about the focus areas. So these are the focus areas that you can choose from: religious education, spirituality, pastoral life and administration, youth and young adult ministry, religion and ecology, digital culture ministry, marketplace ministry, small Christian communities, pastoral care. Again, the individualized program allows you to craft, in conversation with your advisor, your own program. And then we would ask you, because these courses are mainly offered online, you would really need to speak with your advisor about mapping out your course trajectory. So now, one of the exciting things about what I understand is happening there in Lakeland, and inspiring really, is what I understand there is happening there in Lakeland, is an interest in informing lay people to be to work in as pastoral life coordinators, and to work in various new positions in ministry in that area. That's really inspiring, and I think really forward thinking. And Lewis there has shared that with me, and Tomas has shared that with me, and I'm inspired to hear what you all are doing. So one way that we can serve you, I want to share with you the curriculum that we can work with you to assist you with that. I'll show you that in a second. And this is a potential curriculum, and I want to work with Lewis and Tomas and the deanery in shaping it to meet your needs. But this is one thing we could possibly do, is, again, our introduction to practical theology. We would want our students to be grounded in Scripture. And then the centrality of grace, the centrality of church sacraments and liturgy. And then a course on leadership and organization and planning, and a course on business management, focusing on more financial issues. And so we can offer, this would be one possibility for a pastoral life coordinator and others involved in ministry leadership in your deanery. But again, I want to work with Lewis, I work with Tomas, work with the deanery, work with the diocese to really shape that. And then while you're taking courses there in LIMEX, meeting 3 hours once a week there in Orlando, if you want, you could, at the same time, to pursue the master's degree, you could theoretically take an online course at the same time, which would allow you to finish the master's degree in 2 years. But I want to remind you what I said at the beginning. Our program is for busy adults, and many busy adults don't have time for that. And so most of our students take just one course at a time. So you could take the online courses after the LIMEX courses if you wanted to get a master's degree. So just a few more things, and then I'm going to turn it over to Tomas. I want to tell you about the tuition, and then tell you about the graduation. Oops. And then tell you about the graduation. I'm sorry, the application. So tuition in LIMEX, for graduate credit, it's actually a little bit less, as you see, and there are no course fees. For graduate online, it's a little bit more expensive. and there are some course fees. So when you take the LIMEX courses, you'll be paying the LIMEX tuition. If you proceed to take online courses, you would pay the online tuition. CEU tuition is the same whether in LIMEX or online. And let me tell you the difference between CEU and graduate. So graduate credit involves more work, but it involves deeper engagement with the material and with faculty through required writing. And those courses can be counted towards a graduate certificate or a graduate degree. And so, like I say, it involves more work, which can be difficult, but that more work leads to deeper engagement with the material. CEU requires less work, but it does require the reading, prayer, and participation. And so the difference in cost, difference in work. So, and this would be something that I would be happy to talk with you about. If you wanted to talk to some of our graduates, you could speak about with them about the difference in those different things. And just maybe a little something about the graduate in the writing. For me, writing, some people think writing is just taking what's here and plopping it on paper. But I myself, my children, when they were young, asked me, "Dad, what do you do for a living?" And I say, "I type for a living." And so that's my job, is typing, is writing. But I have a hard time when I write. But that very struggle in writing is productive. It's a learning experience. I learn. So that's, to me, the value of writing. It itself is a really powerful learning experience. All right. Whew, I've talked a lot. I'm sorry. I got a lot of information for you. But I think the last thing here is the application, which we'll talk more about later. But CEU application involves the application, and it involves a statement of purpose, resume, and then 2 letters of recommendation. The graduate application, similarly, application, statement of purpose, resume, letters of recommendation, and transcripts. So it's important for the transcripts that we would need to get those transcripts from your university. Let me say something about the statement of purpose. Some people, busy adults who haven't been in school for a while, feel intimidated about writing. And as I say, we have a writing consultant to assist you in your writing. And some people feel intimidated about writing their statement of purpose, 3 pages. I'm not sure I could do that. You can. So what I would say is, think that I love this image of vocation. Vocation is where my love, my commitments intersect with the world's great needs. So what are my loves? What are my commitments? And what does the world need? And you all said that at the beginning. Your commitments as catechists, sacristans, RCIA, liturgy, ministry of the sick, Eucharistic ministry, religious education, youth ministry. You all have loves and see the world's great needs. So talk about that. What brings me to this point? What are my loves? What are my commitments? What brings me to this point? What do I see as the world's needs, the church's needs, and how can this program help me? So the statement really kind of flows from that. I'm sorry, I've talked a lot, and I love our program, but I've probably talked too much.